In the early stages of drug discovery, our focus is almost entirely on the molecule. We design it, we synthesize it, and we test its biological activity. But what if I told you that the physical form of that molecule, how it is packed together as a solid, can be just as critical? The way a compound crystallizes can dramatically impact its solubility, how stable it is on the shelf, and even its bioavailability. Ignoring these solid-state properties early on can lead to some major surprises down the road. Think of it this way. You have the exact same chemical compound, the same molecular structure, but it can exist in different solid forms. And these different forms can behave in completely different ways. You might see one form dissolve easily, while another barely dissolves at all. One might be stable for years, while another degrades in weeks. It's the same molecule, but its physical arrangement dictates its performance. This phenomenon is often due to what we call polymorphs. Polymorphs are different crystalline arrangements of the same molecule. Imagine you have a set of identical building blocks. You can stack them in one neat, repeating pattern, or you can stack them in a completely different, but still orderly pattern. Both stacks are made of the same blocks, but the overall structures are different. That's essentially what polymorphs are. They share the identical chemical makeup but differ in how the molecules are packed in the crystal lattice. So, why does this matter so much? Because that difference in crystal packing leads to different physical properties. Different polymorphs of the same drug can have varying solubility, which affects how much of the drug can dissolve in the body. They can have different dissolution rates, which controls how quickly the drug becomes available for absorption. Even their mechanical properties, like how well they compress into a tablet, can change. All of these differences can have a massive influence on the final formulation and, most importantly, the drug's biological performance. A classic example is a drug that worked great in the lab but failed in clinical trials because a more stable, less soluble polymorph appeared during manufacturing. Now, this might sound a bit alarming, but let's be clear about expectations. During early discovery, no one expects you to run a comprehensive full-scale polymorph screening for every compound you make. That would be incredibly resource-intensive and impractical. The goal at this early stage isn't full characterization. It's about developing an awareness of the potential risk. We want to identify red flags, not build a complete roadmap of every possible solid form. The idea is to be vigilant and know what to look for, so you're not caught off guard later when the stakes are much higher. So, what are these early warning signs or red flags? Keep an eye out for unexpected variability. If you're measuring the solubility of a compound and the results are all over the place from one batch to the next, that could be a clue. If you notice the compound sometimes crystallizes as fine needles and other times as large blocks, that's another signal. Any significant batch-to-batch differences in performance, whether in a physical property measurement or even a biological AI, should make you wonder if solid-state variability is at play. These inconsistencies are your early indicators that something more is going on than just the molecule itself. To manage this risk without going overboard, you can adopt a minimal screening approach. This isn't about launching a massive research project. It's about being observant and doing a few simple checks. First, just observe the crystallization behavior. Does it look consistent every time you make a new batch? Second, check the reproducibility of the solid form you're getting. A quick check can confirm if you're making the same thing each time. And third, monitor for any obvious variability when you prepare your samples for assays under standard conditions. These simple steps can give you valuable clues with minimal extra effort. One of the most powerful tools for this is X-ray powder diffraction, or XRPD. You can think of XRPD as a fingerprinting technique for crystalline solids. Each unique crystal structure produces a unique diffraction pattern. It's a definitive way to tell different polymorphs apart. Even a quick XRPD scan on a couple of batches can be incredibly revealing. It can quickly tell you if you're consistently making the same solid form or if you have a mixture of different forms. This simple check can save a lot of headaches and prevent you from chasing phantom artifacts in your data. Another useful technique is thermal analysis, particularly differential scanning calorimetry, or DSC measures how a material's heat flow changes with temperature. It can reveal the melting point of your compound, but more importantly, it can show you other thermal events, like transitions from one crystal form to another. If you see multiple melting peaks or unexpected transitions before the main melt, it's a strong indication that you might have more than one polymorph or perhaps an unstable form. These thermal signals are another piece of the puzzle. suggesting that the solid state of your compound deserves a closer look. Solubility surprises are another classic red flag. As we've mentioned, if you're remeasuring solubility and the results are inconsistent between different preparations of what should be the same compound, solid-state differences are a likely culprit. You might get a high solubility value one day and a much lower one the next. This is especially common and more impactful for poorly soluble compounds, where even a small change in solid form can be the difference between getting a good reading in an assay and getting no reading at all. If your solubility data is bouncing around, it's time to investigate the solid form. It's also important to understand the difference between amorphous and crystalline forms. Crystalline materials have that ordered, repeating three-dimensional structure we talked about. Amorphous materials, on the other hand, lack any long-ranged order. Their molecules are arranged randomly, like in a liquid. Amorphous material often has higher apparent solubility and dissolves faster, which can seem great for bioavailability. However, the trade-off is that it's usually much less stable. Over time, it can spontaneously convert to a more stable, less soluble, crystalline form. Understanding this balance between the kinetic advantage of an amorphous form and the thermodynamic stability of a crystalline form is key to making smart development decisions later on. So, when do you need to take these observations and escalate them to a specialist or a dedicated team? Escalation is probably a good idea when you see that the variability is starting to affect your assay results, leading to inconsistent biological data. It's also time to raise a flag when you begin planning for scale-up synthesis, as the manufacturing process can sometimes favor the formation of a different, unexpected polymorph. And certainly, as a compound gets closer to being selected as a development candidate, a more thorough solid form investigation becomes essential. The key message here is to avoid premature over-engineering. It can be tempting to hear about polymorph horror stories and immediately decide to launch a full screening program for every interesting hit. But this can consume a huge amount of time, material, and resources that are better spent on other discovery activities. In the early stages, this level of depth rarely improves the actual decisions you need to make, which are primarily about a molecule's potency and selectivity. A full workup is for later. Instead, the focus should be on a strategic perspective. Early solid-state evaluation is all about awareness and risk recognition, not about exhaustive characterization. It's about asking the right questions. Is my solid form consistent? Are there any red flags in my data? Am I at risk of being misled by an unstable form? This mindset allows you to identify and flag high-risk compounds for further investigation without slowing down the overall pace of discovery. It's a smarter, more efficient way to work. Ultimately, physical form matters a lot earlier than many of us think. While we are busy optimizing molecular interactions in discovery, the physical reality of the compound is already influencing its behavior. By developing an early awareness of solid-state properties, we can prevent major surprises, protect our program's momentum, and lay a stronger foundation for successful formulation and development down the line. Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we'll explore early stability screening and how to identify a compound's chemical liabilities before they become a problem. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.